Welcome everybody. It's Wednesday night. That means it's time to play some Merfolk. I am Merfolk Joe. Thanks very much for joining me this evening. I'm going to be playing Mono Blue. Sometimes the metagame shifts in weird ways that will favor either Mono Blue or in many other situations, I guess Simic will be slightly better. In other metagames, maybe Bant. Bant recently has been doing quite well. So what kind of defines when one of these approaches is better than the other? In the case of Mono Blue, you guys probably are pretty well aware that Arkham's Astrolabe got banned a couple days ago. So this card was having a pretty significant effect on Modern. If you play Modern any significant amount, you have to have realized it already, but it basically makes Blood Moon kind of obsolete, because you can play a Blood Moon, but as long as an opponent even has like one Astrolabe, much less like two or three or four, Blood Moon doesn't really do anything, right? Because Astrolabe is just going to fix their mana however they want. So this got banned, and now all of a sudden, Blood Moon is sort of a thing again, right? So all of a sudden, greedy mana bases are going to have to sort of check themselves or lose a lot of games to random Blood Moons. So a lot of control decks are having to rethink their strategy. Previously, you had Bant decks with Uro and Icefang Coatl. And without the Astrolabe, I mean, is Icefang Coatl still playable? I think people are trying to figure that out. Control players are trying to figure it out. It's certainly harder to establish Death Touch. Previously, they could just play two Snowlands and Snowland, Astrolabe, second Snowland, flash in Coatl, and then by turn 2, all of a sudden you've got basically a Baleful Strix with flash. So it's got Death Touch, it's drawing a card, it's flying. Pretty busted. But with Astrolabe out of the format now, they actually have to get 3 other snow permanents other than Astrolabe. So either three Snowlands or 2 Snowlands and 2 Coatls, etc. It's just going to be harder for them. And so in the last few days, I've seen just regular blue-green control, just trying to do its best to be able to cast Uro and escape Uro while still casting counterspells. I mean, it's a pretty fair approach. Uro, pretty fair magic card. It's just a creature that tries to get in and attack. I mean, it is a little bit kind of unfair that it has some pretty strong effects stapled to it. But yeah, blue-green, right? They can't just jam white for free because of Astrolabe. Today, I saw like old-school blue-white control. I mean, it had some new cards. I think it had Little Teferi, it had Force of Negation, it had the Shark Typhoon. So people are just trying to figure out what to do with control right now. But there still is a fair amount of it in the format, it seems like, at least during this sort of experimental period initially following the banning. Which is to say that control generally favors Merfolk. They have a hard time blocking our creatures since we have Island Walk. Have a couple of Mutavaults. They can have a hard time interacting with manlands. But this deck in particular is well situated to do well against decks like Ponza, where they're like ramping with Utopia Sprawls, which we can wreck with Spreading Seas. They're playing things like Magus of the Moon and Blood Moon, which Ether Vial laughs at, and 13 Basic Islands laughs at. Welcome to the stream, guys. I see Snizia49 is spamming some fish. I'm spamming some fish too, so hopefully we'll get some wins this evening. And Kayoma, cool. I'm looking forward to it as well. I played 3 matches earlier today. It was against Mono Green Tron, which I beat, and then some Mono Blue As Foretold. That's it, As Foretold deck. But I kind of crushed them. I got a Chalice on 0 down, which is pretty rough for them because they can't really resolve Ancestral Vision then, and they also can't resolve like Restore Balance or any of their Suspend cards really. So beat them, and then After that was the blue-white control deck, which I got in game 3. Won game 1 pretty solidly. Game 2, they landed an early Monastery Mentor, and I had taken out all my Dismembers. I know at this point that control can either bring in Monastery Mentors from the sideboard or just have them in the main deck. And so I was thinking when I was sideboarding that I could get wrecked by a Mentor. I didn't expect it to happen like on turn 3, but I did get steamrolled by a Monastery Mentor in game 2, and then game 3. It's really nice and interactive game. Force of Negation did work, and in the end, just vialing in creatures and chipping in for the final like 7 points of damage was enough to make it happen. So first 3 matches up. I won. They were all Qs, so potentially not the strongest opponents in the world, but still nice to win. So let's talk about the deck for a minute. I'm back on Master of Waves. The format has had a significant amount of red in it for quite a while. I mean, Burn really never goes anywhere. Prowess is kind of a pretty well cemented deck in the format at this point. I guess Goblins counts as a red deck, even though it's trying to combo off like before Master of Waves even comes down. You've got Jund, you've got Ponza. Master of Waves pretty well situated, it seems. He does die to things like Plague Engineer, a Fatal Push with Revolt turned on. So, you know, it's just a very, very fair 4 drop. If they don't have something to stop it, it can just win a game by itself. That's why we play it. And because I'm on Master of Waves, I am on 20 lands at this point. The lists like the Bant lists and the Simic lists that are pretty much capped at 2 drops, you can cut down to 18 lands, particularly if you've got some cycling lands, things like that, like Waterlogged Grove, those kinds of lands. Anyhow, I just found myself getting pretty flooded, so I trimmed down to 18. I think it's more correct for these lower curve decks. When you go up to when your curve goes up to 4, I think 20 lands with the 4 Ether Vials seems appropriate. Like, you know, across thousands and thousands of games with Merfolk, just the math seems to work out pretty well. 19 with this kind of a curve, I would go down to it in the past and then sort of go back up to to 20 because running 4 drops, you really want to curve out to the extent possible. And let's see, I've got 3 Tidebinders in the main. Again, lots and lots of red and green in the format. It's not terrible in the main deck because, first of all, it's a 2/2 Merfolk that gets buffed by our Lords. We do have 11 Lords in this list. Next, it's got 2 blue Devotion to help Master of Waves have a big impact. And, you know, if push comes to shove, it's totally useless. We don't need it. We can just pitch it to Force of Negation. Some people are messing around, taking a different approach to this new developing metagame by running extra Seize effects like Seize Claim. That's another way that you can contribute extra devotion to Master of Waves. But I feel like I'd rather have a more proactive plan with extra creatures that can slow down what, you know, like Prowess is trying to do. Kyoma, I feel like worrying about Ensnaring Bridge is kind of a trap. It just seems like it inevitably makes our deck worse. Like how many games have you lost to Ensnaring Bridge in the last half a year? I feel like across the 2 decks that I play, like Merfolk and Soul Herder, maybe 1, but I cannot remember the particular circumstances. That's talking about like one game in 6 months. So, I mean, how many matches do I see Ensnaring Bridge in is a better question, and that's, I don't know, maybe half a dozen or something like that. I mean, it's just not something that comes up that much. You literally saw Nikachu lose to it today. An unusual, yeah, so fair, right? It's a red-green prison deck or red-white prison deck, and any of those decks that are... There's literally 5 people in the world playing it right now, so I'm not even gonna elevate it by actually giving some kind of percentage of the metagame, right? It's completely inconsequential. Now, there are things like Karn the Great Creator that can go grab Ensnaring Bridge, but I have 8 counter spells, you know? If they get it down, if they have an empty hand and we can't attack and they get all those things locked into place, then fine, you won a game of Magic. Not a big deal. Yeah, well, I see Eldrazi Tron all the time, and again, I've seen Ensnaring Bridge half a dozen times in the last 6 months. So you guys can run answers to it, but whenever I run things like Brazen Borrower, it just seems like a card that could be way more impactful. Like right now, Goblins is everywhere. I really like how Damping Matrix lines up against that deck. It just makes them have to win with their fair plan, which there is actually a pretty good fair plan. They can very easily still win that way, but it does sort of shut off the entire combo angle, which is why people are really playing the deck right now, as much as they are compared to before Conspicuous Snoop was printed. So anyhow, not really interested in running an out to a card that I see like half a dozen times in as many months. Just to answer your question. So it's just my opinion. It's not definitive by any means. So anyhow, main deck Tidebinders look good right now. As far as the numbers of what I'm running, just trimming on some of the things that could be a little bit heavy in such a fast metagame, like 3 Master of Waves, 3 Regeries, 3 Dismembers, could be 4 Dismembers. It's a very well-positioned card right now if you're trying to win against, again, a deck like Goblins. Deck like Devoted Druid would just go over the top. And having removal is just... is very nice in Modern. That's about all that needs to be said about Dismember. Since I've got some sort of sideboardy cards in the main, like Tidebinder Mage and Dismember, kind of opens up some room in the sideboard, and as you guys can see, I've kind of just gone all in on a few choice effects. I think Chalice of the Void is really well situated in the format. There's a ton of really low to the ground decks. Not good against Goblins. They do run Cavern of Souls. They do run Ether Vial, so not going to do anything against that low to the ground deck, but against Prowess, against Burn, it's going to be excellent. Then Deprive, just another counterspell. We do have 4 Caverns and 2 Mutavaults, but 14 just straight up blue sources. I have experience playing Cavern of Souls and Deprive. We most often have the blue sources, and Cavern is just extremely well situated, as, again, I said that there's plenty of control in the metagame right now. Lots of counterspells around, lots of Chalice around, and we can play through it with Cavern of Souls, since our creatures are then uncounterable. And yeah, it's just a very nice land. Does get hit by Blood Moon, but if opponents are playing Blood Moon against us, we're going to be pretty happy, I think. So, Kayoma, how do I feel about Deprive right now since you've been trying to dodge having a bunch of counterspells, since Veil is one of the most played cards? Veil does exist, but so do other counterspells. So you can either play around it if you see green mana up, or... I mean, the idea that counterspells are bad because Veil is in the format, I think is not really accurate. They need to have the Veil. You need to not have another counterspell. I just haven't been getting blown out by Veil left and right. If it were to start happening like every other game or something, then I would reconsider the approach. But just earlier today, I deprived a Monastery Mentor, and it won me the game. So I love Deprive. Being able to hit creatures as well as everything else, it's a very powerful counterspell, and really doesn't hit us too hard with its drawback since we do play Ether Vial. All right, so I mean, some Graveyard Hate, and that pretty much rounds out the deck tech, I guess. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me hear it. I'm going to let people know I'm going to jump in. And all right, let's do this. Let's make sure we got the right deck. Looks like we do. If you're interested in checking out the deck while I'm in the league, I believe the Cardboard Live plugin on the side over here should have... I'm sorry, maybe I need to resize my window so you guys can actually get a good view at my sideboard. Sometimes I forget that I've got this band on the side over here. So yeah, just that is the sideboard. Three relics and 4 each of these other 3 cards. And that's it. So let's go ahead and jump into the league. It would be funny if I just lost a few games to Ensnaring Bridge this evening. With this particular setup, I'm hoping to run into decks, I guess, like Jund, Ponza, etc., where Tidebinder Mage is going to be relevant, and where Master of Waves might be good. Okay, we found an opponent, but now they're just letting the clock tick down. Oh, look at this! M. Hayashi is on the top of the table again. It's always good to see. For those of you who don't know, M. Hayashi is probably the most successful Merfolk player on Magic Online of all time, I'd say. Just the most consistent results. I did win the die roll, but unfortunately I do have to start this league with a mulligan. And this is going to be a keep. It's actually quite good. Opponent's mulliganing as well, so sort of even Steven. Hopefully going to just cancel out the effects of the mulligan with these 2 card drawing spells. So we're going to keep here, and we'll bottom one of these redundant ether vials. Opponent does have Luris as their avatar. Though they didn't reveal Luris, so they're probably not playing it as a companion at this point. Okay, opponent kept their 6. Open Island Ether Vial, and let's see if Cavern of Souls is going to be useful or not. I mean, obviously it's going to help me cast my spells, but when we draw the Cavern, we kind of hope to see Eldrazi Tron, because then maybe they kept a Chalice, or Control, and they kept a handful of counterspells. But Spreading Seas not the best against Control unless they open with like a tapped Colonnade or something. But we'd probably still run out the Silvergill Adept next turn. All right, opponent thinking on my end step. Okay, well, Spreading Seas seems nice, particularly as the opponent is on a mulligan, though it is only a mulligan to 6, and Tron tends to mulligan pretty well. Being on the play is pretty clutch here. We don't know what kind of Tron we're playing against yet. But the best here would definitely be Eldrazi Tron, as we do have the creature interaction with Tricksters. And with this Ether Vial on the board, we definitely prefer to stop drawing lands. Okay, double mine. And okay, I've heard people talking about this. I don't know if this is a mono green piece of tech. I think it is Eldrazi Tron because they like to scry. Because they have a lot of air in the deck. They want to like find their lands and find their haymakers. Let's see. So you tap this. You can pay 2, tap it, put a page counter. So you're either scrying or paying mana to draw cards. When you've done that 4 times, you don't get to choose. You just exile it right away and you gain some life. Interesting. First time I've played against it for sure, but I have heard people mention it before. So we're just going to try to push as much damage as possible here. Since we've got instant speed effects, we're just going to hold everything up. No lords to affect combat here. If the opponent does nothing of significance, we can just flash in both Tricksters and swing for 6 next turn, make it a 3-turn clock. If we draw a Lord, it'll make it a 2-turn clock. And it is nice to have the Force in hand. It is Eldrazi Tron, so they could just... Okay, they went bottom with that scry. Seemed like a pretty poor mulligan. They didn't play a different Tron land on turn 2. Tron typically wants to mulligan to Tron. Like, you know, you're not mulliganing to not Tron. Okay, well there is the second Tron land, so we will be playing our Spreading Seas next turn. Okay, they're going to draw a card here after playing their land. But I guess they would have played a second Tron land anyway. I am interested in just accelerating my clock. So, I have to think carefully here. If I flash both Tricksters in, I've got my draw step, then Spreading Seas to try to draw into a blue spell for Force of Negation. But I am going to be tapping lands for Spreading Seas. Yeah, I mean, just getting creatures down seems good here. And Spreading Seas is going to keep them off anything big and like really meaningful. All right, that was excellent. So it is a 2-turn clock here. And we do have a card to pitch if we want to. Again, seemed like a poor keep by the Tron opponent. Okay, they're scrying. That puts a 3rd page counter on the Maze Mind Tome. They went to the bottom again. And I can't really see them digging their way out of this. We have Island Walk, lethal through Island Walk, so I mean that does absolutely nothing. So kind of weird for the opponent to just play it out. I guess they don't really, maybe they don't know how Island Walk works. It's, you know, there's just sometimes people don't run into Merfolk that often. All right, so opponent's scooping on my upkeep. Let's draw a couple cards. That would have drawn that, so. All right, game 1 in the bag. So I think Deprive is quite good against Eldrazi Tron. They can just make it useless by playing Cavern of Souls, but I mean, comparatively useless because they still have stuff like All Is Dust, Karn. Oh my god, sometimes my clicking device can be kind of annoying. All right, Chalice on the draw against him is pretty poor. I actually think it's pretty poor against them in general. It can be good on the play against Green Tron, but not against Eldrazi Tron. I think it's just going to be the 4 Deprives. Definitely going to keep the Dismembers in, going to keep the Seas and the Gills in. I might trim on the Master of... Actually, Tidebinder Mage's pretty poor, so I'll go ahead and take those 3 out. And then I'll trim 1 Master of Waves just because it's super weak to Walking Ballista. Excuse me. A Damping Matrix turns off some of their stuff, but not enough of it, I don't think, for me to bring it in. Hits artifacts and creatures, so Walking Ballista gets turned off. Doesn't turn off their Planeswalkers. I mean, this is really a nod to Goblins, and just as a consequence of having it in the deck, I have some extra play against Devoted Druid, but it's not really in there for that matchup. So again, sideboarding out the 3 Tidebinders, they're pretty poor in the matchup, and one Master of Waves. I don't think we want anything else, so just go ahead and jump back in. So again, the opponent did mulligan there, but they stopped on 6. It's in the blind, so they didn't know what they were playing against, but it seemed like they were really far away from Tron from their opening hand. It's an excellent hand. We have literally 0 creatures until I activate Mutavault, but I am going to keep this. Okay, we could force that. Since it is Eldrazi Tron, it could pay to do that, but we have the Spreading Sea, so I think I'm just going to chill. All right, almost certainly going to play the Spreading Seas next turn, so the land sequencing, you know, in the early part of the game, it's extremely rare that I will activate Mutavault and attack on turn 2. So it's almost always correct just to lead on Island because things can change. And, you know, you could suddenly need 2 blue, you draw an Island, and then you regret having played out Mutavault. All right, so opponent is cruising towards... Oh, they play the Maze Mind Tome. Well, I guess that's whatever. They're going to have to wait a turn to get Tron online now. Oh, they could just have it in hand. That could just be an indication that they have it in hand. So double blue is quite nice. It's going to allow us to turn on Deprive. We do have a creature now that we can Vial in. I think I'm going to go with Mutavault at this point. Actually, you know, am I going to... Is there a chance I might attack with it next turn? Probably not, because I'm just going to hold up counter spells probably. So I'll go ahead and play my blue source and throw the Spreading Seas on the tower. See what we draw. All right, well, that was an excellent draw. What the hand was lacking was gas. All right, opponent gets to scry. We can see what they do with their scry. They left it on the top, so potentially another Tron land. All right, Eldrazi Temple. They're kind of priced into grabbing the Dismember here with the Thought Knot. If they don't take the Thought Knot, we're just going to kill. If they don't take the Dismember with the Thought Knot, we're just going to kill it right away. So they kind of have to take it. They are still 2 turns at minimum away from establishing Tron. I've got 2 counter spells. They could be chilling on like all this dust, in which case they might want to get rid of my counter spells. But that doesn't leave them in a very good spot. Okay, they just took Lord of Atlantis. So I'm getting the impression that this opponent might not be... they might be fairly new to Eldrazi Tron or to the matchup. But I simply don't see how you let me keep Dismember here. Okay, so it's finally time to play the Mutavault. I'm just trying to think if there's any benefit to hitting the Thought Knot now or just waiting on it. It could change my plan, but I doubt it will. It just gives me more information now. Maybe if I draw Spreading Seas, I might just run that out right now. I doubt it. Even though I'm going... Typically you want to get your card draw effects before playing your land, but I knew I wanted to play the Mutavault there and use the gray mana to cast Dismember. Getting a second Aether Vial down seems decent, but... just holding up Deprive also seems decent. I'm going to take this Aether Vial up to 3 to get the reach down and continue holding up counter spells. All right. Opponent continuing to scry. They went to the bottom this time. So no Cavern of Souls at this point. Opponent does have an Expedition map up, but they're nowhere near Tron mana. Okay, now they are, actually. They have the Expedition map. They could turn Tron on next turn. Okay. Seas was a good draw. So I'm going to continue to be patient. I could have waited there, I think, but probably not, since I wanted to hold up Deprive anyway. So I'm going to hit that mine that they just played. They're going to have a lot of mana. Like, they only need to get to 7 mana to cast all this dust, but we do have the 2 counter spells. This might be a little passive. I could have just, like, activated Mutavault and attacked, but... just trying to get something going with my hand. We are going to be able to get a Rejury down. Probably time to crack that Expedition map, I'd imagine. Okay. Found a replacement tower. When games drag on like this, it does tend to favor. Opponent probably should have scryed before they drew there. Another Expedition map. That would turn on Tron, which at this point I'm sort of okay with, so I'm going to let that resolve. And they already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. 6 Eldrazi mana. All right, so maybe we can get in some beats here. You know, they could very easily have things like Spatial Contortion or Dismember. But we've just been drawing like an interactive hand rather than like a beefy merfolk hand. I'm going to keep it on 3 for the time being. There's 2 more Regeries in the deck and 3 Master of Waves. Another Force. So I'm going to activate the Mutavault here. Try to get in for 5. Okay, assuming they don't, well, what's happening here? We're going to get a Dismember, in which case we could hardcast Force. And then have up, I think that's fine. I'm going to fight over stuff on their side of the table rather than spending my precious counter spells on spot removal. You know, we've got plenty of merfolk in the deck. 4 of them just draw, you know, more cards. Silvergill Adept. Okay, they're going to gain some life. They're going to draw a card here. Interesting play by the opponent. I guess they don't really have payoffs, which is why they would maybe choose not to crack the Expedition map on our turn. But they could also just tap the 2 islands, crack it, and then have like 11 mana on their turn right now. Very grindy game. Definitely favors the Tron player. Ugh, and now they get to Tectonic Edge my Mutavault, which is fun. I think that thing's fine. I think it's going to be okay to get down the second Ether Vial at this point. And just pass the turn. I mean, the Matter Reshaper is a 6-turn clock by itself. Be cool if they went after, like, Oboro with the Tech Edge. Okay, cracking the Expedition map. Probably going to get an Urza's Mine. Cavern of Souls. Okay, well, makes Deprive a little bit worse. Okay. Blast Zone. I think I am going to take this Ether Vial up now. Just like, it would be excellent if I could get a Master of Waves onto the table in response to like a Blast Zone for the Ether Vials. That was funny. Okay, so I think I'm just going to cast my Merfolk at this point. Blast Zone, rather than go after Ether Vial, the best play is just to, I guess, go after the 2 drops, right? So they do have the Cavern in hand. We can just pitch Force to Force if they cast like a Planeswalker we want to deal with, or All Is Dust, that kind of thing. So let's get some creatures on the table, see what they want to do with Blast Zone. Lot of counter spells. Okay, so let's see how the opponent times this Blast Zone. Do they let me untap and maybe draw Master of Waves? Looks like they're going for it now. Which makes sense because it opens up a lot of mana for them. What a strange, extremely dragged out game. Okay, 11, probably for a Walking Ballista, which I could have deprived, but you have to stop playing around stuff at a certain point. I will just go to my draw step because I can hit a Dismember. I mean, if we get a Dismember, we're going to go to 9, and then we're going to take 5 from the Walking Ballista. So, unfortunately, I think we're pretty much priced into just blocking here. This game is almost certainly over. Spatial Contortion. All right, well, come on, Dismember, right now. Silvergill into Dismember would be fine. But we're almost at the scooping point here. Yeah, way too many counter spells. All right, so interesting. So they got me to tap out by fetching the Cavern of Souls. So potentially clever by the opponent. They did know that I had the 1 Deprive in hand. Possible I might want to cut some of the forces if I bring in all those Deprives. So I will trim down to 2 Force of Negations. I'll keep all the Deprives because I like the flexibility, particularly on the play. So I guess we can bring this Master of Waves back in, again, even though it's kind of weak to Walking Ballista. And then, I mean, I guess Force of Negation just seems better than Tidebinder Mage. Although we did kind of get wrecked there. And we haven't seen any Planeswalkers out of their list. Possible we should just be looking to force the early map, that kind of thing. But Matrix doesn't shut off very much. I was already sort of talking about this, right? I guess it shuts off like their tome. I could see that. All right, so let's give that. Let's sort of experiment with Damping Matrix. I think I will keep in at least 1 force, and it's not like a home run Damping Matrix. So I'll just bring in 3 and keep 2 forces, I guess, and we'll run it back like that. And let's see how Damping Matrix does in the matchup if we happen to draw it and get it on the battlefield. But those counter spells were just pretty bad in that particular game. Okay, 6 lands, got a mulligan. Well, this is better. We're going to keep. And I guess we'll probably just bottom the Trickster. It is a very good card. But against Walking Ballista, we kind of want to win fast-ish. So I think keeping Beef in the opening hand seems good. Also, just keeping the Dismember seems kind of like a no-brainer. Oh, Vial, right. Trimming Vial for Damping Matrix makes sense, but yeah, I have played a little bit with Damping Matrix, but not enough to actually remember, I guess, that there are non-bows involved. So let's just hope to dodge drawing the Vial. Opponent did keep 7 cards here. Blue land would be fine. We probably don't really want to draw Ether Vial at this point. And we obviously don't want to draw more Damping Matrices. Matrices, all right. So we got that blue land. That's nice. Am not going to attack with, unless they can't Thought Knot next turn, so I am just probably going to just play the blue land here. Again, you sort of have to try to develop play patterns, and getting down an early Mutavault very often doesn't make a ton of sense. I mean, against Jund, it can be huge to get a turn 2 Mutavault because then they'll play Liliana, and then you can attack Liliana with the Mutavault right away. There are definitely going to be sort of niche situations where you will want to play an early Mutavault. Okay, so in this spot, I think I kind of have to go with Damping Matrix and hope that, you know, they're going to cash in like a big Ballista. Now I will play the Mutavault because we can just go like Lord into activate Mutavault next turn if we feel like it. And we'll run out the Damping Matrix and see if we can get the opponent to not crack this Expedition map. It seems very unlikely. But this will turn off tomes, it will turn off subsequent maps, and most important of all, it'll turn off ballistas. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see if we can dodge drawing Ether Vial for the rest of the game. Opponent got a Blast Zone. Interesting. Okay, all right. So Natural Tron. They did keep their 7, makes sense. Okay. Am I going to lose to Ensnaring Bridge here? We can push tons of damage and just kind of try to ignore the Karn. Yeah, you know, 3 exact cards to get 7 mana on turn 3 in your opening 7 seems pretty good. So opponent got a Mystic Forge. That's curious. I can just dismember this thing right away and attack Karn down. Seems decent to me. Deprive is also quite good. Quite good. For the time being, we don't really care about Mystic Forge. Blast Zone is kind of annoying because 2 turns later they can get rid of the Damping Matrix. So definitely going to play a land. And I mean, I don't love. I could just kill. Let's see. Lord. I really like holding up Deprive, but if I go like Dismember, I can't activate Mutavault, attack Karn down. We can just let them plus, right? That's not a big deal if they just plus for the turn. This lets them look at the top card of their library, and they can cast Artifact. So it's actually quite okay for them through Damping Matrix. They just can't do the activated ability. But I can deprive it if I feel like it. We'd like to win the game kind of quickly, though. So if I play a Lord and they just go like all this dust, I think we're pretty much lost. So Dismember on Mattery Shaper seems poor, but getting play a Lord, Dismember, attack Karn down, shields down for a turn. I guess we can afford to do that. And what are they going to find? Another Mattery Shaper. That's fantastic. It's actually the opposite of fantastic. All right, I can't really attack into this right now. It doesn't do anything. I should have maybe dismembered first. That would have been the play. I should have dismembered first. Sky Sovereign. All right, opponent getting way out ahead here. Well, they can't crew this thing, which is kind of nice. For now. Yeah, okay, so 4 mana lets them play the Forge. Something like a Spreading Seas would be nice. Did they do anything with Karn? Oh, that was sick. That's a nice draw. I think they did nothing with Karn. Huh. So we know they have a Blast Zone. And I can't imagine that killing Karn would be bad here, so... Oh, yeah, they can't cruise, so that's fine. Alright, if we play a Lord and attack with everything next turn, it's for 9, but they do have a blocker. This is basically giving them an extra look at the top of their deck. Okay, can't activate that. So a Matrix is actually quite nice here. And maybe they just, did they play that? Did it even say from the top of their deck or not? Guess not. Okay, so Blast Zone, we really want to... Ooh, is this an Ugin? Or just a Ballista for 4? Alright, well, it's sort of okay. We really want a Spreading Seas. Like, Spreading Seas is the jam here. I do have 4 of them. It's a good card right now. That's really not what I wanted to draw. Okay, opponent's going to be getting in for 7. It's a 2-turn clock. We can play a Lord and hold up to Prive. I mean, it's not really that great. Opponent can then tick Blast Zone up to 2 and get me pretty soon. So, I mean, Matrix has done well here, but... not well enough, I guess. Opponent did have Natural Tron with a whole bunch of nice payoffs in hand. Getting in for 6 seems poor here. We can double block and just kill their Ballista. They can only kill one of our things. But remember that Blast Zone, yeah, it's 2 turns away, so let's see what they can do. I was feeling good about this matchup. Opponent seemed somewhat inexperienced. Another Matter Reshaper. I mean, like a Master of Waves off the top stabilizes quite nicely. I can't activate my... Well, I can still double block if they attack with the Walking Ballista. Double Blast Zone, why not? Okay. If they have the removal here, I mean, is this... Seems like trading one of my creatures for their Walking Ballista is good. If they have removal, then, you know, they've got it all. They've got creatures, Tron, Planeswalkers. Like, removing the Lord here would just be sick, and it looks like they have it, so... I don't think I could really afford to play around that. At least the Ballista still dies. I lose 2 of my creatures. And... yeah, really tough beats there. Not really anything I can draw here. Damping Matrix, quite good in the matchup. I appreciate somebody suggesting that I bring it in, because it has been very good. Okay. I mean, imagine where we would be if we didn't have this Damping Matrix on the table. We'd be utterly buried. Oh, so they can blow up my creature, attack for 6. I mean... pretty pointless. Now they just blow up. They blow up more Maze Mine Tomes if they crack the Blast Zone. Like, what's up with that sequencing? triple Karn. Seems good. All right, very good games, opponent. Sometimes they get you. Not the matchup we were necessarily hoping for with this particular build. Opponent does have one undefeated trophy, so good for them. If you guys came in late, you can check out the deck list over here, Cardboard Live. It is a mono blue list with tons and tons of islands, Master of Waves, Spreading Seas, couple, actually 3 main deck Tidebinder mages, trying to take advantage of the red in the metagame. Tidebinder, Master of Waves, Spreading Seas. Trying to make Blood Moon look silly, so hopefully we get paired against Ponza once this evening, but that's one deck in the format. Can't exactly hope for that. All right, we found an opponent. Let's go ahead and join the match. All right, opponent won the die roll, but we get a pretty nice opening hand. This does kind of get got by Blood Moon, but it does have the Ether Vial, so there's that. It's quite good against Ponza because we should be able to cast this Spreading Seas. Maybe blow out a Utopia Sprawl. Haha. Did I randomly call the matchup? Nah, this is what? Wooded Foothills. Probably not Storm. I think they have only blue fetches. Oh god. What? Are they... Oh, okay. Lighting up the stage. I see. Interesting. Merfolk Trickster could be massive here. Because they'll go all in on their prowess creature, and then we can just tap it down, block it, whatever. Tidebinder Mage as well, so suddenly quite well situated. But the deck can be extremely explosive, obviously one of the most explosive decks in the format. It could take a fair amount of damage this turn between this Swift Spear and whatever else they've got in hand. They could have mutagenic growths. They've got access to a crash through there. But they can't go, unless they have, like, Simian Spirit Guide, they can't go Swift Spear, Monomorphos, that kind of thing. Not quite yet. So opponent's stuck on one land. That would be pretty awesome for us. Looks like they might be. Looks like they are. Okay, so maybe an easy game 1. Opponent cannot cast their crash through. So totally possible that Spreading Seas is kind of pretty awesome here, but I'm just going to go with Tidebinder Mage. Can't really see that being bad here. If Prowess has to start pointing their burn at our creatures, they're going to whiff a turn on their attacks. Seems pretty good. Typically, you're going to want to run the Tidebinder Mage out first. Sometimes you might want to get cute and like save it for whatever reason you can sort of cook up in your brain. But against, like a deck that all they want to do is attack, like Prowess or Infect, just trying to stop them tends to make a lot of sense. Is this that little dragon guy? That's a Monomorphos. I'm sorry, Kyoma, this is your first time seeing what in action? Let's see. Oh, this is the new Prowess deck. Yes, exactly. Oh, I haven't actually seen... Oh, there it is. Okay. So that can't get hit by Tidebinder, but it can get tapped down. So, by Trickster. So, all right, this is a 3/3 flyer with Prowess. All right, well, we've got the Trickster, so... Again, seeming like a pretty decent spot. Opponent has 2 cards on top of their library. All right, let's go to our turn. Kind of want to stop drawing lands at this point. I could bluff an attack into this flyer, see if they block. I feel like they would probably not because they're afraid of the Lord, but then they're trading for the Tidebinder and they sort of unlock the Swift Spear, so probably not the best attack. Still got to think through these things. Playing the card draw first to hopefully hit a better land draw, but at this point we've hit all 4 Cavern of Souls. Kind of weird. Hey, we just lost the first round, sadly, to Eldrazi Tron. Just the draws didn't line up very well for us. So opponent did top 2 cards with this Stormwing entity. And yeah, no attacks to be had for us. We do have access to Island Walk if we can draw an Island Walk Lord. So we're hoping that the opponent casts a bunch of stuff main phase. If they go to the beginning of combat, I'm just going to flash in Trickster and tap down this crazy flying creature. Okay, so here we go. This is looking pretty good for us. We do get, hopefully, to get in a nice attack next turn, unless they start removing our creatures. So yeah, it is round 2 right now. Currently 0-1. So this kind of stuff is always pretty massive against Prowess because it just, all they want to do is push tons of damage, and it's like a time walk plus committing another creature to the board. Soul Scar, okay. I think I'm going to Vial this in now and then tick it up. Or, we'll see. Dismember is pretty nice. So I guess we'll just leave it on 2 for the time being. Another Silvergill is a little bit awkward, but we can cast this Seize, maybe draw another Merfolk. I tapped the wrong mana with Cavern of Souls. Wait, stop, cancel. Well, we are getting super flooded here. I can attack, see how they block. Or if they block. Okay, no blocks. And I think I'm just going to dismember this entity right now rather than letting them untap and make it like gigantic. Losing 4 life against this kind of a deck could seem pretty bad, but obviously that thing was going to do way more than 4 damage to me. We're in an excellent spot right now. If nothing else, I can Vial in the Silvergill and have another look to hit a Lord. Opponent's going to try to attack with this Soul Scar. I could just chump, throw the Silvergill in front of it, but I'm at 14 and they've now got 3 cards in hand. Hard to see how they win from that spot. They could go like Bolt, Bolt, Bolt is 9 plus 4 on Soul Scar Mage. Would be 13. Even that doesn't get there. I mean, they could have like more gut shots. They could have lava darts. Lava dart would actually be pretty gross in this spot. I think it's probably better to be safe here. Just like throw the Silvergill under the bus. These guys run mutagenic growth, all sorts of crazy stuff. Oh, they're going to trade. That's amazing. That's really, really wonderful for us. If you guys watch like Saffron Olive's videos where he plays Prowess, oh, is this A Bedlam Reveler it is. Well, so Lord off the top just wins. But if, I was starting to say, if you watch any videos where people play Prowess, the way that the deck wins, particularly with Gutshot, it's kind of a more all-in version. I'm sure this deck has mutagenic growth in it. If you don't block, they just like cast a bunch of spells and you lose. But you know that you want to be more afraid of like Kiln Fiend. Oh, I should have done the same thing with Silvergill here. Okay, that'll do. So yeah. Game 1 to Merfolk, it looks like. No Gutshot on Silvergill in response. And opponent scoops. All right, cool. We did win game 1 against Eldrazi Tron, I guess, too, so let's not get overly excited. We do get to bring in Chalice of the Void, which is a massive blowout if we get it down early against them. Is Relic... Yeah, Relic is okay. It takes them off Bedlam Reveler. It takes them off of, like, well, Lava Dart. I guess I could see myself bring... Well, it's a 1-drop, which is always the non-bow with Chalice. So since they don't have too many cards that really care about the graveyard, I'm probably just going to leave the relics. Probably trim 1 Dismember. Force is only really amazing in the matchup if it counters like a light up the stage where it's like on the card advantage axis. The opponent just casts, you know, like a mutagenic growth. Like countering it isn't amazing, particularly when you 2-for-1 yourself, because they're still getting a prowess trigger, right? Oh, I can trim Spreading Seas. Hell yeah. Which then, at that point, I probably want to bring in, I guess, the Dismember. We do want to draw one of them, I think, in this matchup. Obviously, Master of Way is quite good if we can manage to live for a little while. We did find a matchup, only 2 matches into this league, where the main deck Tidebinders are quite solid. Lock down that Swift Spear from turn 2. Silvergill's a little bit weak to things like Gutshot and Lava Dart, so I could see trimming like a Silvergill to bring in a Relic. But we like bodies and redraws, and I think this setup is probably fine. It's possible we want some number of Deprives, maybe instead of Force of Negation. If they do get to Bedlam Reveler territory, we can counter that. So yeah, why don't I trim 2 Forces, bring in 2 Deprives? It's pretty bad on the draw, and this is an incredibly fast matchup. But I don't know that we have much better options. It's possible, I guess Deprive should stay out on the draw, and it can come back in on the play, and I'll just keep the Forces in here. I mean, the thing is, all right, I'll bring in 1 Relic for now, and we'll sort of see how it goes. But we really want to get a Chalice down on 1, and I hate increasing my 1-drop count when my main plan, like my best path to victory, is just getting Chalice on 1. But yes, games can get grindy. Relic is pretty good if we can get it down early and just start chip. All right, I think this is a keep, guys, because it's basically an auto win if I can hit a land on either of the 2 top cards. I can dismember whatever creature they play first. I mean, it's terrible because if we don't draw 2 lands really fast, we're not really doing anything. Although we also have a Trickster. I mean, I have so many blue sources in the deck. We're gonna roll the dice. We're already up a game, so I'm gonna keep this. Okay, well, pressure now. Totally possible that with like mutagenic growth and prowess, they could get outside of Dismember. So I'm just going to Dismember now, I think. This is a pretty risky keep, kind of unnecessary. But we do have the interaction with Trickster. We've got Dismember. We should have, I don't know, a tiny bit of time, hopefully. But even like a Mutavault off the top would be awesome. Okay, well, Sometimes you take risks. Mulliganing has its risks as well. This hand could still do well if the opponent doesn't have a handful of 1-drops right now that are just going to get in before I can get a Chalice down. We've also got forces that we can start pitching things to. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how it plays out. Let me sort of bluff a little bit here. Unless I just start dumping spells right now. Let's see. I mean, just like Force is not terrible here, because I'm not casting these creatures anytime super soon. Yeah, good call, Kayoma. I'm pretty sure Spectacle just is if okay, what's happening here? They're gonna bolt me. Yeah, I don't really see a reason to not force this. I mean, we're gonna die pretty soon if we don't stop stuff from happening. I mean, Chalice is good as the game goes along as well, because like 80% of their top decks are going to be 1-drops. Looks like we're set to take 2 here. This is turn 3 for the opponent. I guess they haven't played a 3rd land yet, which means they've got some gas in hand. I don't know about this Keep. I was on the draw, and we have whiffed on lands twice now, I guess. Okay, opponent looks like they're happy enough to take 2. If they cast... Oh, they're not casting Light Up the Stage. That's nice. Ugh, this is getting pretty gross. All right, we've got one more force in the chamber. Let's see what the opponent does. Pretty sure I'm just out of this one at this point. Whiffed on lands 3 times in a row. It's very unlikely. Okay, so they're going to start getting in for more damage. And at this point, even just countering stuff with Chalice, you know what? I might just scoop rather than playing Chalice at this point, because and I didn't draw lands in the top 4. So apologies for the sketchy Keep. Kind of unnecessary and a little bit weak, I think. We'll be a little bit more careful in game 3. But we were up a game. All these things come into play when you sort of figure out whether or not to keep borderline hands, and I don't think that quite qualifies as a borderline hand. Being on the play again, Chalice is that much better even. I don't think I need Relic or want Relic here, and I definitely want to skew the balance of these towards Deprives, at least getting a couple of them in here. So, I mean, their out to Chalice is something like a Braid, in which case maybe Force is better. Huh. Because they're going to go for a Braid on their turn rather than letting us untap. Maybe we can afford to trim into that. I don't like trimming the Dismembers. All right, I'll just go with 1 Deprive, and we'll see how that goes. So we're looking for 2 lands and 2 lands in Chalice. Let's go, deck. We gotta keep this. It's got the 2 land part. We get a couple of redraws with the Silver Gills to hopefully dig into that that Chalice. Opponent keeps their hand as well. Yeah, Chalice is hopefully on top of the deck. I like the certainty, though. Did opponent keep a hand without a 1-drop creature? I guess we'll see. Nah, it looks like they've got something. We're either going to gut shot and light up the stage like they did last time. All right. So now I think it's just Trickster time for a little while. I mean, it does kind of count as like a redraw in a sense, because it just sort of pushes the clock back a little bit. We've got the Force in hand, but again, really only for something extremely impactful, like an Abrade on a Chalice or something. Opponent thinking real hard here. Okay. I guess they're going to go with the little Sprite Dragon. If they just attack, that would be amazing, because I would just let the attack go. They could have like a gut shot or something, in which case it would just buff it up, but I would just kill it anyway. Okay, we're seeing a crash through. That's awesome. Let's go to beginning of combat, and I'll just tap it down. All right, opponent going with the sorceries for now. So Trickster gonna save us 4 points of damage, help us push some damage ourselves, and we can just do it all over again next turn. So, they went top here, and they've already played their land drop. So Trickster time. Get him. Actually, I guess it's 3 points of damage, not 4 points of damage. All right. So we're still looking for that Chalice. I mean, the Lords are okay. Lords are okay. Okay. I mean, I'm just gonna try to run it back. Imagine the opponent probably has a third land drop since they went top with their scries. I mean, this is gonna let us, even if we, well, okay, there's a land drop. Let's just see what they're up to here. Let's get some more sorceries going. I mean, do I care about countering a Monomorphos? I'm just gonna tap down this Soulscar Mage anyway. It prevents them from drawing a card, but we have to pitch a card to Force of Negation, so it's kind of card neutral-ish, and we kind of like all the cards in our hand right now. I think I'd rather let them draw a random card. Doesn't it just care if they cast it, though? Rather than resolving it? So me countering it doesn't really do anything, does it? It just says if you've cast it, then... All right, I mean, this is our plan here. Dismember, not great. Again, since it turns on their light up the stage and such. Oh, they won't get the mana from it. Fair enough. Okay, let's see what happens here. Flame slashing a Trickster. I can dig it. That's fine. Okay, so that thing costs 2 less, so that means it's 1. Oh, it only costs 2 mana to play? I thought it cost 3 mana to play. All right, whatever, we've got the Dismember. Okay, they went top again. All right, that's a good draw here, I guess. Merfolk. And I don't know, because they have stuff like Gut Shot, Lava Dart. Do I want to run out the Lord first, or do I want to run out the Silvergill first? Silvergill's going to get me closer to stuff like... I'm going to dismember this entity right now. I think I want to play the Silvergill out just to get more information, and if that's the case, then I probably should have waited to play my land drop. At a certain point, we can't cast the Silvergills if we don't have more Merfolk in hand. Showed the Lord, whatever. Normally would have showed the Silvergill, but I clicked a little bit hastily there. All right, let's deal with that thing. Really interesting match. One's gonna have 5 cards. They did go top. I would force like a lava dart here because it would mean that they couldn't recast it. That seems relevant in this spot. And I'm not sure if I block here with the opponent going top and with the force in hand. All right, so I guess we're choosing to force this, and I'll pitch the Silvergill at this point because beef seems relevant. 2-turn clock, but they've got to have all sorts of things like bolts and. So, I don't know. I guess Chalice off the top, maybe the best draw. Something like a Lord, even a Deprive, probably pretty good. Opponent knows I've got the Lord in hand, and there's the light up the stage. They have not played a land yet, so there's going to be a land and another light up the stage, so it's kind of passing the buck a little bit. It will tap them out, though. So they're thinking, I guess, about what? Whether to leave up Bolt or. They could still have Gut Shot even if they tap out, but the fact that they're thinking so hard about this makes me think they don't have Gut Shot. Holding up like a Bolt for the Lord, I guess. Man, I punted that second game. No reason to keep a 1-lander without Ether Vial. I mean, I rolled the dice, but mulling to 6 is really not that risky in our deck. Okay. So they went with the light up the stage here. Lightning Bolt and Flame Slash, why not? Master of Waves. Master of Waves. Yes. Yes. Super duper yes. Now, I don't think I play around Skullcrack here, right? If they attack, I just block with Master of Waves, right? I could just throw like an elemental away. I guess we'll see if they go with Crash Through. I guess we'll see, you know? We had our sick draw. Let's see what the opponent has for their sick draw. They get 2 free cards over here. Pretty nice. Yeah, and they haven't seen the Master of Waves yet, so no reason for them to even sideboard it if they do have that tech. Something like Crash Through, Bolt Your Face, Flame Slashing, what? Just a random Merfolk. Seems decent, I guess. And now they cast their Flying Bird. Okay. Okay, all right. Are they going to leave back a blocker? I guess we'll see. Maybe if they know I have a Lord. So just casting a bird here seems pretty terrible. Okie dokie. Let's go, deck. All right, so we got the anti-red tech right here, seemingly taking us to victory against one of these prowess decks. That was really the purpose of this build, and seems to be working. Opponent in the tank. What are they going to do? Again, they do know that I have the Lord in hand. I guess they could have, like, Lava Dart to kill some stuff, a Bolt to kill the Lord. Lava Dart takes care of 2 elementals. I don't know. This seems pretty hard for them to win from. Okay. Lava Dart number 1. Did I kill all my elementals? That'd be pretty rude. And I could just go with the 2-turn clock plan here, since it's not lethal. Well, all right, what's happening here? Are they just going to hit the Tidebinder Mage right away? Now, do we want to let them hit the Tidebinder Mage and keep the Lord in hand? I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I'm going to play out the Lord. Get in for 1 more point of damage. Okay, this is totally fine. Now we get to attack with all our stuff. Master of Waves, doing it to the red deck. And they could have, and they got 2 cards in hand. They're going to drop to 3. They've got 3 lands on the battlefield. We're at 14 life. They could play a Swift Spear, play 2 spells. We still got some attackers. They're at 2. All of our creatures are lethal. They have to stop all 4 of them. All right, we got there, guys. Very cool. So, an extremely aggressive deck in Modern right now. Very powerful, very explosive. We managed to get there with some strategic deck building between Master of Waves was a really beautiful top deck there, and then we followed it up with Tidebinder Mage. So, deck doing a good job. All right, cool. So we are currently 1-1 in the league. We can check if Slayer OP is doing well in the league. Let's see. They don't have any trophies yet. Let me take a quick break. I'll be right back. Just a second. Yeah, Kyoma, I agree. It's very nice when opponents just give us access to Island Walk right away. I was just thinking about that game 3 against Eldrazi Tron. Like the opponent had natural Tron, no maps or anything like that, I think. And then they had triple Karn. They hit a Mattery Shaper off a Mattery Shaper when I wanted to try to attack a Karn down. To be fair, that was kind of my own mess up with sequencing. We got a Damping Matrix down, which stopped their Sky Sovereign from crewing. It stopped their Mystic Forge from activating. It stopped their new artifact tappy thing, that Scries. Did some work, but we just got utterly ran over. Like, all right, let's go ahead and jump into another match. Yeah, opponent I think made some missteps. Like game 1, their keep on 6 seemed very dubious. These have been fairly long games. My other deck is Soul Herder. For those of you guys who don't know that, Soul Herder is super grindy. When I play Merfolk, I expect it to just go faster. But like we're already like an hour and a half into the stream, and so 4 lands, 3 spells. They are good spells. We're on the draw. It's a little slow. There's no Vial. If it is something like Prowess, this hand lines up pretty well, but I mean, this is one of those hands really where you have to take an island, put it to the side, and say, would I keep this hand on 6? And like gladly, or if you might mulligan it on 6. And for me, this is a pretty obvious keep on 6. It's got a Cavern, which is really good in certain matchups. It's got a Tideminder, which is really good in other matchups. So between the Cavern and the Tideminder and just the beef, I feel like this is a borderline keep. I think we can stick with this hand. All right, well, we might have some red mana or green creatures, I mean. So we'll start off with an island. Drawing another land there feels really bad. We need to stop drawing lands immediately for this to be playable whatsoever. Oh my god. What is this, a Blood Moon? What are you doing, opponent? Screenshot. All right, so opponent wasting cards to get stupid stuff on the board. They could, of course, they could have like a Anger of the Gods or something, which could get us. For that reason, I might wait until my turn. Well, let's see what happens here. Oh my god, we're going to lose to Ensnaring Bridge. I just talked to somebody about that at the beginning of the stream. I guess it was Keoma. Oh my god, first time in a long time. I guess this is what you said you played against. Well, that hurts. That feels real bad. I thought it went from thinking that we had an excellent matchup here to just thinking, obviously have a pretty poor matchup. It's fine. Like this really high variance garbage. I mean, I guess Blood Moon decks do tend to play Ensnaring Bridge, so I should be keeping that in mind and should probably adjust for it. The reason I haven't seen Ensnaring Bridge probably so much recently is that Blood Moon has been so bad. Prison decks have been so bad. But now with Prison decks back, I guess we should probably expect to see more Ensnaring Bridge. So this game is probably just about over. I am going to... I don't even know. I guess I just Spreading Seas their red. It will take them off red because of timestamps. And Aetherval's sort of okay, but there's no way to get the Ensnaring Bridge off the battlefield, so all they have to do is empty their hand. We can just hope that they have 4-drops in hand and have no more lands. Or that they have red spells in hand, right? If they have red spells in hand, then they have to... They've got everything. Clothis and 2 cards in hand now. So they gain life. Oh my goodness, we are getting so ultra wrecked right now. All right, I was just talking about how matches were taking too long, so let's concede this game. Stupid ensnaring bridge, man. So we bring in more counter spells, and I guess we'll sort of see what happens. Now I have to start playing Bounce, man. Bounce is like I was explaining earlier. It's so narrow, or it has been so narrow in Modern. Like it's so rare. It's been so rare that bouncing something from the board is good in Modern. Like we're gonna bounce a Tarmogoyf and then they just replay it. Doesn't feel very good. They are a red-green deck. Spreading Sea is not super amazing in the matchup, I think. They're not playing a ton of creatures, and it's probably going to be quite difficult to mono-screw them. Because if we play Spreading Seas on like a Stomping Ground and then they play a Blood Moon, it just changes it to a mountain. But we are expecting to see things like Rabble Masters and whatnot, so we do need to be able to punch through. So I'll keep a couple of Spreading Seas in. Master of Waves, a good way to close out the deck. The Elementals can squeeze under like a hand with 2 cards in it. We really, 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 really just need to dodge Ensnaring Bridge. On the plus side, if they do land the Ensnaring Bridge, we can just scoop and move on. Not a big deal. So you can cut some beef in this kind of a matchup because it can be disadvantageous to get your creatures too big, and then Ensnaring Bridge just like makes it impossible to attack. Maybe trim 1 Regery. Actually, you know what? The Tidebinder Mages are relevant. They are going to play red creatures. You could play like big dragons, things like that. Glory Bringer. So I'll keep the Tricksters, I'll keep the Tidebinders, and whatever. I'll trim 1 Island Walk Lord. If it has Ensnaring Bridge, I admitted up front that I'm not prepared for that. And so if we get got, then that's just variance, just like Etron having the nuts in Game 3. This is bonkers. They probably brought in stuff like Choke and Boil, too. This card is not getting spent unless it hits an Ensnaring Bridge. That's the only thing I'm going to cast that card for until I draw more counter spells. A strategy I was starting to talk about in the last game that I didn't actually get the words out of my mouth for was getting your creatures to 4 power. Oh my god, you're going to get got, opponent. I'm going to get you. Rabble Master, that's sort of fine. I mean, we're gonna go pretty big. Turn 1 Rabble Masters, whatever. We have like Master of Waves to answer that. Trickster, Tidebinder Mage. Speaking of, yeah, seems correct to just run that out right now. I think the goblins have to attack, so I can just eat one of these gobos. One of them will get through. If I can draw another lord and get 3 lords onto the table, play around things like Anger of the Gods, I think it'll just be, oh, what are you doing, opponent? Another Spirit Guide. Bring it now. Let's go. Abrading that guy. So I was talking, look, they're obviously stuck on 1 land, and they've already exiled 2 Spirit Guides. Does move the needle a little bit on whether I want to counter this or not. We have to win the game somehow. I've got 7 more counter spells in the deck. The way that it looks like they were planning on winning was through Rabble Master. So, guys, I think I have to do it. I I think I have to counter this, and I think I have to pitch a Lord. You know, events on the ground, on the battlefield, change the way that we play. Opponent obviously really cared about that Tidebinder Mage. Okay, all right. So, I mean, we can just eat both of their creatures if they attack next turn. I am going to start just with a Lord. I'm going to swing. And let's see what they've got. Hopefully, if the magic gods are with us, they will continue to not draw lands, but looks like they're hitting lands. All right, I'm going to get a Silver Gill down. Well, you know what? I can get a Lord down here. Because Silver Gill gets blown out if it looks like the opponent's F6'd here. So another Lord would be like one of the best possible draws here. Just a counterspell, maybe. All right, well, Cavern is one of the worst possible draws. I don't think I play anything here. I think I just attack and pass the turn. It's possible that it could be correct to Vial in the Silvergill Adept. If I draw the Lord, I would just play it right away, not make myself weak to land into Anger of the Gods. But if they Anger of the Gods, it gets rid of the Grapple Master. I can play the Silvergill Adept. They're going to be at 6, so I think I just attack here. I'll play the land because Silvergill might move the needle on, well, being able to cast something like a Master of Waves. Something like a specifically Master of Waves. So let's get in there. Tidebinder, once again, doing work. Opponent. All right, they scooped. We got it. So on to game 3. They're going to be on the play. Pretty scary. I hate playing against these cheesy decks that have Spirit Guide and just go for free wins, but we do have 8 counter spells. You saw how ineffective the Rabble Master is against us. And honestly, with Master of Waves potentially going huge around the edges, I might just trim the Spreading Seas. I don't know, and just like go big on the Lords. If they get an Ensnaring Bridge down, we just lose. So I think the beef seems more important than Spreading Seas, because we're not really looking to screw the mana of like a 2-color deck. Like they're already pretty efficient with their mana. They do play a Braid, obviously, but let's go. Hopefully we have like a couple lands, Ether Vial, maybe a Force, and they just go big and try to get a turn 1 bridge down, and we just counter it. The one thing that this is a keep. The one thing that I missed in my sort of metagame calculation was the fact that an increase in Blood Moon in the format moves the needle pretty far towards Ensnaring Bridge. Opponent's mulliganing to 5. And we don't have like a Trickster where we can, or a Vial that'll let us hold up Deprive comfortably. All right, well, that was a spectacular draw. If we can just dodge an Ensnaring Bridge for 1 turn, like if they have Ritual into Bridge, I think we're probably just toast. But it looks like we might be in the clear right now. Looks like we might be in the clear. Okay, guys. We can chill a little bit. I mean, if they have something like Choke or Boil, we need to spend our Deprive, I think. Otherwise, again, we're just purely looking for something like Ensnaring Bridge. So opponent plays a land, plays Ensnaring Bridge, we counter it. Klothys is fine here, I think. Fine, totally fine. It's not gonna prevent us from winning the game. Okay, that's quite nice. So if they had the bridge, they would probably just slam it. But I can't go shields down here. I feel like 2 and then 3 and then 4. Once we get Regery down, we can start tapping and untapping and get more stuff onto the battlefield. So pretty sure just passing the turn is the way to go here. We can't let them top deck into something massive. If they have like a Chandra here, I might even let that go, because we can probably just attack it down with Lords. Ritual is fine. They're going to storm off and make a bunch of goblins. Played a 4th land. Pyromancer. Again, it's kind of whatever. It's going to draw them 2 cards. But I just really only care about... Oh, they pitched an Anger of the Gods. That's pretty sick. Oh my god. We have reached enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen. Opponent F6'd. We get to cast 2 Rerejays and kind of go bananas. Opponent's going to chump, I'm sure. Okay, Deprive. We can cast Master of Waves, tap down whatever the opponent has, and we've got 20 power on board right now. Chandra deals 4 damage to something, but they're down to 1 mana. Like, whatever. It doesn't win the game, and it doesn't stop me from... hang on a sec. Like, what could they have? They could have a Dismember, like, exactly, but I can't imagine them... Oh, no, Dismember does, yeah, -5/-5. That could prevent me from winning the game. Not really sure what Chandra does here. Just gonna add some mana. Or she could... 4 damage doesn't do anything. I think I'm just going to counter this. I don't feel like running into any tricks, and the opponent's on a mulligan, and they're on 1 card, and they chose to lead with Chandra. All right. We will tick up the Ether Vial because there's only 1 Rege left in the deck at this point. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Play Master of Waves. Just, you know, put the exclamation point on the, I'll tap Clothis too, send a message. Actually, this doesn't win. I forgot that the, oh my god, that was lame. I forgot that the opponent gained life from Clothis. Now I can just lose? Oh my god, I can lose to a top-decked Ensnaring Bridge because I forgot that they gained... No, you're right. You're totally right. I thought they were at 19. All right, that was a huge punt. I'm sorry. I had lethal, but I didn't... I thought that they were at 19. That was ridiculous. Yeah, no, I know. I was getting cheeky with the... ridiculous. If they get an Ensnaring Bridge off the top, like... I don't know. My head might explode. But we earned it if they we earned the loss if they do top deck it. That was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it was just really stupid because what I could have done is I could have cast the Master, untapped 2 lands, played the Lord, and then tapped their stuff very easily, right? To still send the same message. There was a Force of Negation on the top of the deck, so whatever that's worth. But really stupid. Almost lost me the match, which should have been easily won. So be careful against Klothys, guys. It's a pretty tricky card that can be easy to sort of forget some of what it does. All right, well, that guy has 1 trophy, going for those free wins. Wow, I could have sworn that the opponent was at 19, so that like the Lord was totally irrelevant. Just wanted to save time. Cast the Master, tap down his blocker. Probably the worst mistake in the league so far, I think. That and keeping the 1 land hand on the draw against Prowess in game 2. The 1 land hand with Chalice on the draw. We had plenty of looks to hit the land, but it was just a bad keep. We should have mulliganed to 6. Speaking of mulliganing to 6, triple Master of Waves, pretty funny. I only have 3 in the deck, so pretty thin odds of drawing all 3 in the opening hand. Should do a hypergeometric calculation on drawing exactly all 3 of a 3 of in your opening 7. Opponent's keeping their 7. We're going to mulligan. Looks like we have to go lower. This is one of the... I only have 2 Mutavaults in the deck, but this is kind of getting me. It's possible that on the draw this is a keep, but we can just mulligan to 5 and hit Aether Vial and Silvergill and stuff like that, so... I'd rather not lose to just getting screwed by my mana. Screwed by mana. Now, when you go to 5, you kind of have to, stop and then roll the dice with your top decks. So we're going to keep 1 land here. We're certainly going to bottom one of the forces. We could hope that we're playing against like Neoform, High Variance, and then win the game immediately with Force of Negation. Master of Waves is not coming down anytime soon, so that seems better. Okay, so a control deck. We're going to look for an Aether Vial, Cavern of Souls. Obviously, the Spreading Sea is pretty poor, but we did draw land. So they just go like tapped Colonnade. Oh, so it's some kind of red deck. Interesting. Maybe I can get them to counter the Spreading Seas, I guess. Silvergill. I mean, I guess we just run this out, let them counter it if they want to. I mean, they did just shock, right, to have 2 mana up. Pretty strongly representing counterspell, so I feel like just leading with Seas is fine here. We could, of course, pitch Seas to Force of Negation at some point, so if I had taken that consideration a little bit further down the line, I may have kept the Seas in hand. Opponent obviously thinking about whether they want to let this resolve or not. The fact that they're even considering it, letting it resolve, means they've got plenty of red mana in hand. And we drew the Aether Vial, which is pretty slick, actually. So I think like land would probably be... Oh, Omen of the Sea. Was not expecting that. Okay, they get to scry 2. I'll let you guys know what they choose to do with their scries. They went top, bottom. Bottom, top. Getting those sanctuaries out of the deck, kind of like that. And maybe they have another Omen, so I think let's go... yeah, I'm going to run out the Vial. If it gets countered, that's rough for us. But if it's a remand, we just get to throw it back out. Nice. All right, so opponent has no red mana currently. We've got the counter spell up. This mulligan to 5 is actually, you know, kind of getting there-ish. With all these scry effects, I feel like this is probably... They went top, bottom again. They can play 3 and sacrifice this to scry 2 again. Right, okay. Probably some kind of combo deck with all this scrying, I'd imagine. Opponent with the 4 mana up here. Could just attack Mutavault and get in. Cavern is dope. I'm going to play Cavern, and I'm going to play Silvergill Adept. Just get a body on the battlefield. Could just run out Regery too, kind of force them to interact. But we're not gonna like dump our hand. So I think that Regery can kind of wait. We can slowly tick Vial up one turn. Like when we want to Alpha Strike, we can just like get Regery onto the board. So we will cast the Silvergill Adept and just reveal the Trickster. I don't know how many tricky things it's going to do in this matchup, but now the opponent knows to look out for it. All right, well, would have preferred to not draw land there, but at this point we've sort of clawed our way back from a Mull to 5. Vendilion Click, a little bit annoying, but semi-predictable since it does seem like a combo deck and they're trying to get rid of my interaction. So either take the Lord here or the Force, I'd imagine. It does get replaced, so not the end of the world if they ship one of the cards in our hand. Let's see what they choose to do. They shipped the Trickster. It's very interesting. That's the card that they knew about, actually. So dismiss everything about that. And with this land, we can start pushing a lot of damage really fast. I mean, this could just be like a bolt on Silvergill to slow my clock down. But they're opting. So tons and tons of scrying. Opponent went bottom. If it is like a Kiki Jiki thing, they've only got one red right now. They know we have the Force at this point. So up to 2 red now. Okay, getting in with the click. Seems fine. They're gaining control of my Ether Vial. I guess sort of whatever. You got it, opponent. So Regery now seems pretty good. Also, just Island Walk Lord and activate Muta Vault. If they got a bolt, they got a bolt. Play the Lord that they know about. People get so cute with Archmage's Charm. Like, is it really better to take my Ether Vial than drawing 2 cards? Maybe? All right, not sure I agree with that play. But it happened. This deck almost certainly has Snapcaster Mages, so that could get gross. Okay, Sanctuary putting Bolt on top. We do have Force. We can pitch a Regery to keep a Lord on the table, or attempt to. Another Opt. So they still only have 1 red source. They chose to get a Sanctuary, and typically lists only play 3 Sanctuaries, so I think we're kind of through all the Sanctuaries. They could start Crypticking. They just drew the Bolt here, and I'm gonna try to force it, and if they want to like Cryptic counter the Force, it's kind of okay. Okay, not attacking, not casting anything. They do have the Bolt in hand. I think I can't. So what could they do here? They've only got the 1 red, so they can't like Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt. I think just get down another Island Walk Lord and swing just with the Silvergill Adept. Opponent's thinking, okay, attack. Attack. I guess they could Cryptic, bounce a Lord, and then bolt a Lord, and then trade with Vendilion Click. I mean, there are some potential kind of blowout-ish scenarios here. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't look like that's happening. All right, opponent to 8. We've got a Force in hand still. Got a couple more Lords. Opponent opting again. Let's see how they scry. They went top that time, so. Well, we got them to not attack with the click once. Okay, that represents, I guess, another red mana. I could just choose to attack and hold up Force, which seems sort of decent. Oh, Master Wave is quite good. I think just poke. They're at 3 cards. I think just trying to poke in with the Silvergill Adept and counter something if they try to kill a Lord seems okay. I mean, okay, let's see how this goes. Vial for, I'm sure, Snapcaster Mage. For Lightning Bolt. So yeah, I mean, we sort of saw this coming. This is the plan. I'm going to try to counter this. They know I have the Force in hand, so they could very well be playing around this. But we've got a Spreading Seas on the table already. If we draw a land, we can just jam Master of Waves. Oh, so yeah, all right. I can't cast it, so they get to trade with my Silvergill. It's not the end of the world. No more Lightning Bolts in the graveyard at this point. Opponent's down to 2 cards. Of course, they do have these things that'll help them scry. And we still have Force up, so. I'm not sure why they're not cracking one of these Omens with 3 mana up at their end step, getting a basic island there. All right, sure they're going to start the clock ticking here. So they played an island. They're still on 2 cards. We just need to get cards out of our hand. So definitely correct to just jam this Reach here. We can really expand our board if we can just dodge removal for like 1 turn. All right, so they got another Bolt. They're down to 1 card. They are going to sort of start tempoing me out here with this click. But they're at a relatively low life total. They went top-bottom, so they like something that was on top of their deck. But we do have a Force, so. All right, so they're scrying 2 again. Doesn't that seem poor? Okay, they chose to go top here. Okay, which is a little bit scary. I mean, what are they blinking with Urian? I mean, if they can just continue to top deck Lightning Bolts, there's not a lot I can do about it. Jesus. All right, well, we are getting well and truly tempoed out here. I think that might wrap things up, unless maybe I draw a land, I get Master of Waves down. We're getting hit for 5, we'll go to 6. It's a 2-turn clock with click. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, so they're going to blink the Omens with Urian. Makes sense. Dismember takes me down to... like, if I get rid of their clock, I go down to 2. I play a Silvergill and trade with the Snapcaster. Things get equalized. Hopefully they run out of creatures, and then we pull ahead, being the deck with more creatures and counter spells in hand. But it puts me dead to a Bolt, but attacking with click puts me dead to Bolt as well next turn. So I think dismembering click seems fine. Why don't I go ahead and play Silvergill first? All right. So cards are on the table here. If they have a counterspell. All right. Good job, opponent. Well done. Okay. Down a game against a blue-red deck that we should be pretty good against. Opponent just typing like periods into the chat to see if I had disconnected. Chalice seems quite good here. They've got tons and tons of ops. Ops and lightning bolts, things like that. So I think Chalice is probably pretty nice. Snapcasters and I am going to bring the relics in, I think, here because even though it's a slight nombo with the chalices. Seize is an easy cut. I think Dismember is probably fine as well. Tidebinders are weak. Yeah, I mean, the cuts are pretty clear here. We did mulligan to 5 in that game, and we put up a decent fight. So 3, 7, 10, and it looks like we're trying to bring in 11. So maybe I'll cut one more card here. Being on the play, I think we're not trimming any lands, and the forces seem sort of fine. I will trim 1 Regery because it dies to Lightning Bolt, I guess. Yeah. As soon as I said it, I see it in the chat. Opponent says it. They disconnect all the time. Okay, I see. Okay, let's go. This is gonna be a keep. Different strokes for different folks, but unless I have exactly a braid, this dodges counter spells. Actually, they get Archmage's Charm isn't out as well, but we do have 8 counter spells. We've got 19 lands in the deck. Got plenty of things that we can draw that would be pretty nice. Okay, so didn't draw it yet. We're going to be able to play Silvergill out next turn, unless they abrade me on their second turn, main phase, which would get us pretty hard. And I don't know. I feel like the variance has been slightly against us this evening, but not really complaining. Still been playing pretty good Magic. Well, second Ether Vial is sort of okay. I think I'll lead with the second Ether Vial. Let's see if we can get this onto the battlefield. Okay, we did. So with that being the case, I think we can afford to just pass the turn. We don't need like so terribly badly to get the draw to hit a land drop right now. Just use their mana for this stuff. Okay, so they're opting. They went bottom with the first opt, and then they went top with the second opt. They can, of course, click in response to me activating Ether Vial, but I can't really see that being super impactful. There we go. So now we can pass comfortably and hold up like Trickster with our mana. If we draw into like a Deprive. Archmage's Charm doesn't look like they're going for it. I could have done like I'm gonna keep these vials kind of on the slow plan. Chalice is pretty dope. So let me continue to represent that I don't have a second land. I'll just go ahead and attack, see what they do. I could even vial in a Lord to try to draw like a bolt or something like that and try to resolve the Chalice. But if they have like a bolt and then a counter spell, we still get got. So I don't know that running out a creature here is that good. But Chalice will force a counter spell if they've got it in hand, so. And if they counter it, we do have 3 more in the deck. Let's see how this goes. They could just run out a bunch of ops in response to this. Yeah, they got to counter that. Okay, sweet. So they're not stealing any of our Ether Vials, at least not with that particular Archmage's Charm. So this one lander, despite missing the first land drop, they're going to get back the Archmage's Charm on top of the deck. Fair enough. Madcap experiment. Okay, well, if they're going to get that big fatty, Trickster does turn it off. So, yeah, you know, that's kind of whatever. Their life total can't change, so we're just going to try to build a board. And then eventually we'll just Vial in a Trickster. We know that they're going to be drawing into the Archmage's Charm, which could take away one of my Ether Vials. But we'll go ahead here, and since we can't change their life total, we need to just build up a board presence and then Alpha Strike. Yes, it does mean that. Third land, not terrible here. So we are going to tick up both Vials here. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Cavern is sort of okay. All right. So we just have to chill a little bit. We could choose to play a Lord right now. Might get bolted. But we can't attack for lethal next turn. We have 9 coming if we play the Lord and a Trickster. Yeah, because I'm going to hold the Trickster for a while. Doesn't really make too much sense. We can start easily chumping this Platinum Empyrean with Elementals. Opponent cannot fetch, so good call on that one. But they are at like Cryptic Mana, choosing not to attack. Interesting. So a counter spell at any point here would be excellent, just to have some protection when it comes like crunch time. Okay, that's sort of fine. I am gonna hard cast a Master of Waves here, although that changes the math a little bit. I think. Turns off lightning bolts, turns off ops. Seems pretty good. So yeah, let's do that, huh? I mean, Master of Waves is pretty good here. If I hardcast it and then violin another one, I've got 3 Devotion, 4 Devotion. Actually, I get 4 Devotion twice if I just violin in right away. A little bit sketchy if they've got like Anger of the Gods. Should probably just wait till the end step to violin the first. Well, if we want to go for the Alpha Strike, we can make these all into 3/2s by violating in the second. You know, I think I want to go for the Chalice here. Are they going to use their Archmage's Charm on the Chalice? Okay, they did not. And so Chalice on the board. We've got the one Trickster. That's kind of clutch. They're going to put something on top of the deck. Lightning Bolt, but we've got Chalice on one, so they could like Cryptic Cryptic to bounce the Chalice. I feel like now is the time. If they've got the Cryptic command, they could just tap my team down. This could be an excellent time to go for the Alpha Strike, because I can get Master of Waves down, Vial in the Trickster. I would have 5 tokens, and then just, if they've got the Cryptic, tap my team down is pretty rough. But I'll still have a huge board, and they'll just be dead to any Trickster that I top deck. So yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Could also just... Well, they can't cast the lightning bolt, so definitely not afraid of that. Oh, you know what? This was stupid. Wow. This was really stupid. Wow. All right, that's the biggest mistake I've made this evening. I meant to do that on my turn, but I guess I get more more tokens now. That was ridiculous. Terrible mistake. We're by no means out of it, but I just lost my chance to actually win right now. So feels bad. I mean, this Chalice is excellent, but I just totally wasted the Trickster, which is like one of our hugest... It's probably our only out to Platinum Empyrean. Yes, I know, Kayoma. The second that I put Trickster onto the battlefield, like, and targeted, I just knew what was happening. Not going to bother to Vial in the second Master at this point. Maybe the opponent thinks maybe I don't know how Trickster works, and I'm just going to continue messing it up, but... for the time being, we're just going to play this waiting game, which is pretty obnoxious. I should have had a chance to Alpha Strike there. I think we know that Lightning Bolt is in hand. We may also know that Archmage's Charm is in hand. Okay, so now there's just the Lightning Bolt, I believe. All right, I guess I like to make things hard for myself. Ridiculous. Okay, opponent plays land. They've got a pointless bolt in their hand. It could be, I guess, not pointless. I was saying this line before. If they have Cryptic, bounce the Chalice, turn on their lightning bolt, it's sort of fine. All right, well, okay, we get another chance. And the thing is, like, when do we let's see. So 2, 4, 6, 8 plus 10 is lethal. Just tap this thing down, force them to have the Cryptic, and then I guess they could bounce the Master of Waves with Cryptic as well. But they would just tap my team. I could still activate Mutavault and change their life total. I mean, we could wait till we get 2 Tricksters and then force them to... That doesn't even matter, because what I'm trying to play around is them Crypticing my team. So what matters is just, yeah, all right, let's go ahead and just tap this thing. Make them have the Cryptic, I guess. I'll activate Mutavault as well. I mean, actually, you know what? Let me go to attack first. So I may or may not attack with Master of Waves. This is 5. We're going to attack with all of these things. That's 10. Plus 2 is 12. Yeah, I guess we have to attack. Could always just Vial in. Yeah, let's go with Master of Waves as well. And then we can just Vial in another Master of Waves if they do try to, like, Ambush Viper the Master of Waves. Through the breach. Okay, I guess. They have another Platinum Empyrean. Oh, God. Okay. All right, so they're not blocking, which sort of makes sense. And if they attack, I do have a second Master of Waves to Vial in. What a weird matchup. Totally wasted the first Trickster, and at this point there's 2 left in the entire deck out of 43 cards, and I've only got 9.5 minutes left on the clock. Through the breach again. You can't do anything about it. So they have another Platinum Empyrean, which could be cool. Oh, it's Emrakul. Okay. We don't have a flyer. We don't have Trickster. And all right, there was a window where I could have. I guess I can block the Empyrean, not just die. So this is fine. Actually, we win if they attack with the Empyrean. Oh yeah, I think we're gonna win. So let me vial this thing in. Yes, Kayoma, you're on top of all these plays. All right, so we got a bazillion of those guys, and we're gonna have to sack 6 things. So I think one of these islands is fine. Maybe even 2 islands. And then we go 3, 4, 5, 6. And we will go to blocks. I will overshoot a little bit. They can't fetch, it's true, and they can't cast 1-drops. So let's just do it like this, I guess. All right, they just conceded. Wow, that was ridiculous. I made 1 massive punt, but then the opponent lost to my second Master of Waves. So exciting magic, but I need to tighten up my play. That was a little bit absurd. All right, I'll be right back, guys. I got to run to the bathroom. So, anyhow, Kayoma, thanks very much for sticking with me through this league. Really appreciate the company. My bathroom breaks always give me a nice sort of break to think about stuff. And if I punted with the Trickster, the opponent punted extra hard by not by attacking with their Empyrean. Like there's very, very few outs in my deck to their Empyrean. All they had to do was play a click or Snapcaster Mage. I guess a click, right, and just get in with in the air. So yeah, this setup seems pretty awesome against them. Double Dismember is very unlikely. They'll probably just keep running it back like that. I feel like this is one of those decks that could have a totally like transformational sideboard, like bringing in Through the Breach. But I feel like we have to be favored in this matchup because we've got 8 counter spells to stop their sort of combo approach. The Chalice seemed quite good in that game. Opponent's mulliganing. I think we have to keep this. There's a lot of lands in the deck, including 4 Cavern of Souls. Got 2 redraws with Silvergill Adept. The deck can't be going too deep, I guess, with counter magic since, well, that's probably not correct. Let's see. Okay, well, that's an excellent start. We did want a second blue source. So opponent's on a mulled 6. We would love to draw some counter magic, but we've got some redraws with Silvergill Adept. Would love to see a Cavern of Souls here. So let's go Silvergill, reveal another Silvergill, and they're going to go, I'm sure, like Thassa's Omen or whatever. Maybe just a Bolt Art. That's pretty good for us, I think. Relic is nice. We could go Rege next turn, or we could go like Lord Relic. Okay, so we're going to chill on that Trickster for a little while. Opponent can Archmage Charm something at this point. I kind of like just trying to go like Silvergill, run out the Silvergill, let them counter it if that's what they want to do, and then follow up with the Relic. Nice. Now, obviously, we can't crack this Relic right away, and if the opponent does have a Braid, we're going to lose it. Snapcaster Bolt, it's okay. But their graveyard is going to be empty in a moment, and we've got infinite gas in our hands. Opponent's on 3 cards. Let's see what we can do. I should have paused. Go ahead and just trim that away from their yard at this point. And starting with Opt makes me think they could possibly not have a 4th land. Let's see how it plays out. They went top, so I'm sure they have their land drop. All right, starting to get... Oh, not getting in with Snapcaster. I can dig it. And that is a great draw right there. So now I think we go Rege and just hold up Relic. If they continue to have removal, this is good for them, but Regery is pretty busted and a great way to just win the game. Okay. Okay, that island actually is pretty sick. We could just play straight through something like an Anger of the Gods by getting a whole bunch of lords down here, and I quite like that approach. We can just keep untapping Cavern. They could just bolt Regery in the middle of everything, but they're fairly low on cards, and they were on a mulligan. So let's get this started. I mean, if they just go through the Breach Emrakul next turn, we can have Trickster up, which is probably better at this point. So I think I like just leaving Trickster up. All right, let's see it, opponent. And, you know, I think we've got lethal here on board anyway, so I'm fine just continuing to not play out the Trickster. Like, I don't want to get, like, Simian Spirit Guided plus, I don't know. It's at this point, it's just, like, extremely conservative. But, yeah, I can just play a Lord. They can tap my team down, of course, but that's going to stop being an option pretty soon. So here it might just be best to attack with these guys. No, I think I can get a Lord on the table. All right, so I'm just going to go to attacks with these 3. And if they tap the team down, I'll just activate Mutavault and get in for 6. So they're tapping and drawing a card. Fair enough, opponent. Okay, this feels like the opponent has like a through the breach. So Trickster should be incredible if that happens. Okay, interesting. Getting in. You got it, opponent. I go down to 18. I am under 5 minutes, so I do have to play sort of fast. Yep, that's a nice line with Trickster for sure. It's a very, very clever line. Yeah, and you know, Bolt can't get them out of this, so. Let's untap Regery since he's the hero here. What a nice trick to have access to in the deck. How many lucky did you draw? Opponent says. How many lucky did you draw? I drew a lot of luckies in that game. A lot of luckies. Makes it all the sweeter. All right, let's return to the details. All right, so we're in the money in this league. Wait, that opponent's name was Salty Steve? And they have a trophy? I think like 3 out of our 4 opponents have had trophies this league. And Master of Waves has just been pretty awesome so far. I think it just won us a game against Prowess for sure to get us that matchup, that round. I could let more people know, I guess, where we're at. Opponent's mulliganing. We've got 5 lands with 2 Spreading Seas. Now, Spreading Seas is a really good card in certain matchups. Particularly, like, say, Tron, and Tron is a deck that mulligans a lot. But I can't really see keeping this hand here. If it's a control deck, Cavern is good, but Spreading Seas are pretty much dead. So I'm just going to go ahead and mulligan here. Fair number of mulligans in this. This is like infinitely better, like crazy infinitely better. I'm gonna bottom one of the C's because sometimes when you have 3 lands and you bottom one of them, you just end up not drawing lands for the rest of the game. And we are playing with so opponent is thinking about tanking about their 6, I think. We are playing Master of Waves, is what I was starting to say, and they're mulliganing to 5. So we are going to keep, and we're going to bottom one of our 2 Spreading Seas. We do have 4 in the deck, 1 in hand. One of them on the bottom of the library here. So 5 is where they chose to stay. Blinkmoth Nexus. Okay, so this is Scales, which is one of our most difficult matchups. But they did mulligan to 5, so we do have some kind of chance. We'll just have to see how it goes. So we've got main deck dismembers. We've got Damping Matrix, which seems pretty nutty against them. Okay, so they get to make like a 2/2 here. Oh, actually, I guess they chose not to move the counter. And another land. I mean, if we get to Master of Waves, it'll be pretty good. We could try to eat the servo. We could try to eat the Blink Moth. We could just put a seize on the Blink Moth, but I think the best option here just seems to be playing Silvergill Adept. There's really nothing too scary that we have to try to Trickster. And we'd really like to save Spreading Seas at this point for like an Ink Moth Nexus, which is one of their best win conditions. Okay, that's really nice. So now we've got the combo of Spreading Seas and a Lord of Atlantis. We, depending on what they play, you know, we've got a Force here. Let's see if we can just get there against this Multi-5, guys. We're gonna push as hard as we can. We'd love to just draw something like a Regery next turn to really accelerate things, but barring if we don't draw a Regery, Master of Waves is also excellent. We can just play some Devotion next turn. Opponent going Hangerback Walker, so nothing we can do about that for the time being. They're almost certainly going to move their Graft token onto that. Oh, they chose not to. Interesting. I will not trade here. Absolutely not. They could have a Ravager, which sort of gets us. We're kind of drawing bad cards here with these extra Force of Negations. Could play a Lord and just start jamming. Probably the best play in this spot. Next turn, we can go like Spreading Seas plus Trickster. So let's start with Spreading Seas. Actually, not Spreading Seas. Next turn, I was gonna. For a second there, I thought, you know, okay, let's play Spreading Seas. Maybe if we draw Mutavault, we'd want to lead with that. But in this spot, as I was saying, I'm pretty sure just playing the Lord is correct. Okay, let's do it. These Force of Negations, pretty poor. But if they play like an Ozolith, I would probably just cast the Force, pitching Force. All right, start the clock ticking. We've got another creature in hand. We've got plenty of mana. We've got a lot of nice top decks. Opponent seemingly stuck on 2 mana. It would be really excellent if we could steal game 1 against this deck. Then they could be like in a hole if they have to mulligan again. We could snatch another, like a second game. Plus we get to sideboard, brings in a little bit of hate. We got those damping matrices. All right, well, opponent doing nothing here. I guess opting maybe in favor of just either dismembering a Lord. Yeah, drawing pretty light here, but we are going to cast Spreading Seas at some point. We can think for a moment about which land is more significant here. I think the creature land is probably going to be more significant. So, I mean, the risk here is they have Dismember for the Lord, and then they get to just trade a Servo for a Silvergill. God, wow. We cannot draw much worse than this. Like, tons and tons of air, and our hopes of just sort of pushing through this are rapidly fading. I am going to attack. They are on a mulligan, so Dismember does force them to take some damage, even if they do. Okay, so looks like they're probably just ticking Hangerback Walker up, and if that's their plan, I'm not exactly sure why they chose to not put the counter on it with the Llanowar Reborn. Possible they're waiting for, well, I don't know. I guess we're going to see, but I'm holding up Trickster here. And they're just going to make another servo. So, okay, I guess. Not particularly close to lethal here. Really, I guess hoping to dodge like Ravager, which is one of the things that just lets them go kind of nuts. I think we're fine taking 2 here. Don't really feel... I could have eaten it and made some Thopters, but that doesn't seem too good. Will they move this one? No, they're just going to make another servo, I guess, and we're racing. I mean, this has gotten real awkward because even like Silvergill off the top, we can't cast it. I guess Master of Waves is the best draw here. Ugh, why did I have to say that? Silvergill is definitely not a bad card, but it just sort of really forces us to draw Merfolk here. I mean, losing to this Multa 5 where they're stuck on 2 lands for the entire game just feels so bad. If we draw Lord off the top, we should just win. All right, opponent's just scooping. So apparently they had like nonsense in their hand. Like, what could they have that they can't just cast? And they're a super low curve deck, right? So I mean, they can cast any of their 1-drops, any of their 2-drop sets, Ancient Stirrings, Arcbound Worker, Animation Module. They can cast Walking Ballista. They can put an extra counter on it, kill the Lord. Very strange, but we did get the win. We do get to bring in some nice hate. They're not a Lurrus deck anymore, so Relic just like straight out. I guess when we bring in 4 matrices, we're probably looking to trim in our Vials. On the draw against such an explosive deck, I think we do want to keep in some number of Force of Negations to catch like an early Ozolith or Scales. We've got the Dismembers. The Tidebinders can easily come out. Tidebinders can easily come out. At this point, we've got very few 1-drops. I think the Ozolith is a 1-drop, could be a 2-drop. Their 1-drops include Ancient Stirrings, Arcbound Worker, Hardened Scales. So potentially bringing in Chalice of the Void could be relevant. Maybe not so much on the draw. Maybe it's a little bit slow on the draw. Oh wait, Deprive is quite good against this deck because they do play some like must counter spells like Walking Ballista, right? So 3 Deprive, 2 Force, 4 Damping matrices. I mean, I guess it sort of feels okay, and we'll see what they do. And if they've got like a really explosive opening with Hardened Scales and Ballista and/or Arcbound Ravager, it's just always a very difficult matchup for us. So as tempting as this is, we do have to mulligan. The opponent's keeping 7 this time, which is very scary. Man. Ugh. So mulliganing to 4 of absolute necessity here. So at this point, we cannot afford the card disadvantage of Force of Negation. So we got to do it like this, I guess. Yeah. All right, well, we've got lands to cast Damping Matrix if we draw it. So we got gifted game 1, and game 2 just kind of got ripped out from underneath us. Ozolith even kind of plays around, so it's a 1-drop. I think we're going to want to bring in Chalice on the play next game. I'm going to play out Silvergill Adept, even though they can play like Walking Ballista and just kill it really easily, just because we'd love to draw into that Damping Matrix. Well, Ether Vial, a little bit awkward with Damping Matrix. Probably just going to opt to play the Regery next turn unless we draw into the Matrix. But now it's time for like the Affinity deck to really turn the corner. Okay, I mean, that's pretty good. And yet, Damping Matrix is still super awesome here. Well, it would have been, but we're sort of falling behind. If they put another land out, I mean, I guess bottoming out Ballista, like playing its activated ability with a 4th land, killing Regery, would be a win for us. They have a Dismember here too. Yuck. Okay, well, opponent down to 2 cards, drawing up to a 3rd here. At this point, we just want them to have lands. All right, I mean, we've still got those 4 Damping Spheres that are pretty bonkers here. All right, well, Pendelhaven for the buffs, Darksteel Citadel. I guess hitting their green mana seems reasonable. Floating the green. Oh, Veil of Summer, why not? Well done, opponent. So we're going to play it out. Fourth land, actually activating Hardened Scales lets them put 2 counters on one of these things, so getting pretty close to Desperation Zone here. But given the fact that we mulliganed to 4, I feel like this didn't go super terribly. Like, we had plenty of draws where we could have ripped the Damping Sphere, which would have just turned off these Ballistas. All right, we'll go ahead and scoop it up at this point. But yeah, I'm not unsatisfied with how the deck performed. Again, given the mulligan to 4 against one of our Nemesis matchups. So we will be on the play here. We are going to bring in Chalice, I do believe. We can trim a Master of Waves or 2, just because they've got the Walking Ballistas, and I'll just take all of them out. We've got plenty of creatures in the deck. We've got a lot of Lords. And I don't know, it's not like a super home run. Maybe we just play 3 Chalices, I guess. And we will run it like that. We managed to draw one of our 2 Ether Vials in that game. So the only 1-drops in our deck are the 2 Ether Vials. Oh, deck, not like this. Come on. Let me play Magic, please. Alright, so, you know, we can keep this, but it's nothing to really write home about. We cannot cast the Deprive here, and even though the Dismembers deal a lot of damage to us, I think keeping both of them is probably just better than keeping the Deprive. Again, particularly since we can't cast the Deprive right now. Opponent starting with 7. We're going to keep this, and we're going to bottom the Deprive. It's not a great hand. It's not a great hand, and with the opponent keeping 7, I'm a little bit bummed out. We didn't draw the Chalice. We didn't draw. I didn't draw the Damping Sphere. Third land is sort of okay. I mean, it does give us the out of drawing into one of those damping matrices. The Dismember is looking quite good here, because if they just play a land and play like a Ravager, we just snap it off right away. Totally happy to take 4 damage to get rid of one of their sort of central pieces. Surely they didn't keep a 1-land hand with an Ozolith. I guess they're just thinking very carefully about what land drop to make. Okay, well, no counters involved yet, so... Well, and we drew Deprive, so I am certainly going to keep that up. Because next turn is really where they're looking to get things going. So not unhappy to draw that Deprive. Still, Damping Matrix off the top, probably the easiest way to just sort of slam the door shut. They can sacrifice an artifact. This puts some counters on the Ozolith. I feel like the better play here is just to flash in Trickster. They can sack stuff in response, and then in response to them sacking stuff, I can dismember the Ballista. Well, let's see how they respond to the Trickster. It seems like the correct play is just to let it resolve. Okay. So now it's going to resolve, and just mana efficiency-wise, I feel like maybe Dismember is just correct here. Oh, what's happening? Dismembering the Lord. Sort of fine. I think I will dismember the Walking Ballista. And its 1 counter will go onto the Ozolith, and we can continue to hold up Deprive. Unless they're sacking the Ozolith. I mean, they can't do anything with the Ballista, so this would be absurd. Oh, so wait, what's happening? Oh, they're going to proliferate it, whatever. I don't know. They sacked it. I think it's the same either way. All right, so our clock is significantly slowed down. Not great. Not great at all. I think I took all my Master of Waves out. Yep. Oh, they could just win with Inkmoth Nexus here. I don't know. This seems pretty, although, hang on a second. If it resolves, gets 2 counters, those go onto the Ozolith, which they can then put on Inkmoth Nexus. I think it's probably time to just counter this. Give me those counters. Can I get a Lord, please? Or hey, all right. Is that now? This will not stop them killing me with Inkmoth Nexus. It will not. But we have a Dismember for Inkmoth if they go that direction. But they've got 2 Inkmoths. I mean, we really need to draw some stuff. What did they sacrifice? They sacrificed Darksteel Citadel. All right, 3 Inkmoth Nexuses. So I guess the question is whether we dismember this thing now, or whether we this gives it +1/+1. Oh, they can proliferate now? Oh, they can proliferate and then oh Jesus. Well, let's see if they respond by proliferating something. So this will give +1/+1. So it'll be 5, and then they can proliferate. That's nasty. I should have done it. I think we can afford to just take this here. See if the opponent proliferates kind of in response or something. It looks like they're doing something here. Do it, opponent. Do it. Buff it. 2-turn clock. How can you resist? Love it. But we still need to draw some serious gas. I mean, obviously, like, that qualifies as serious gas. Very much so. If I just keep drawing tricksters, then I just win the game. Like, that's how that goes. Yeah, how can they resist, right? I mean, come on, deck. Let's do this. Give me another trickster, please. One more trickster. Ugh, okay, well, they may just have to play defense. Let's see how it goes. Maybe they get clever and try to cast some spell. Come on, what's happening here? Oh, they're leaving up blocks. Come on, let's go deck. Ugh. Whiff number 1. I'm gonna tap some lands here, like I'm thinking about doing something. Slow roll it a little bit. All right, don't want to think too long. Don't want to overplay it. I mean, the bluff is pretty transparent. All right, well, that's difficult for us, but a trickster is still pretty good in this spot. I mean, even like a lord is pretty good. Okay, all right. Called that one. But, I mean, we can't attack into a 4/4. Or can we? If we attack into a 4/4, they eat one of our creatures. Presumably they take 3. Or maybe they just let this die. They let it die, and then they put it onto this guy. It doesn't get them that much closer to winning. But then they're sort of back to only having 2 blockers. I'm going to play this island, I think, so I can play the Lord and hold up force. I think attacking seems good here. Now next turn, it doesn't get better. All right, so I mean, we knew this was going to happen, so let's see how it plays out. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So they're losing one of their creatures. We're losing one of our creatures. They're not taking any damage. This thing gets 1 more counter on it. I've got to force up. Oh, it gets 2 counters, but at this point it's a 2-turn clock for them anyway. And as things stand, they do need to play defense. And more tricksters just win us the game. Tapped land is decent. It should mean that they can't attack here. Should mean that they can't attack. But they can't. Oh, all right. Okay, whatever. Come on, deck. Give me a trickster, please. Oh my god. Oh my god. Come on, deck. Let's take it home. Let's beat artifacts. You're gonna run it back, opponent. Cast that dismember. Lose because you're at 0 life. Yes. Yes. Give me that counter from Lana War Reborn. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. So, hold on a second. Did they have... Oh, they tapped that for mana. Very smart. Okay. Very smart. Didn't see that line, but they are losing one of their potential blockers, and they still don't have lethal with this Inkmoth. We've got counter magic up. Okay, that makes sense. I always forget that manlands can still tap for mana. All right, I mean... Damping Matrix, preventing any blowouts from, like, Ravager, things like that. Come on. Can't really tap mana for stuff. But at the same time, they have to. Oh, this is an exciting match. Oh, well, okay, they have another land. Let's see if that lets them... I mean, all my creatures are lethal here. They can't play Dismember anymore. I've got Force anyway. Oh man, Damping Matrix. Trickster was a huge draw there. And at this point, I think the opponent is just thinking if there's any way out. I think we've drawn 3 tricksters here, and I mean the 4th trickster should just seal the deal if we draw it. Opponent can activate both ink moths. It'd be 5, and then they could Ozolith. That would be 6. They can't use the throne to make any. Oh, they just scooped it up, guys. We got there. Hell yeah, 4-1 with the mono blue Merfolk this evening. Very exciting. Very exciting. Now, I hate how it just kicks us out of the final round. It does leave the chat up, but we can't sort of look at the board state for a minute. But that was excellent. Obviously, drawing tricksters there was just the nuts. So, very cool. Very cool. You can see we had to work for this one. It was a really long league. Every single match went to game 3. And we only lost the very first round to Eldrazi-tron having like the absolute bonkers nuts in game 3. So not sure how many of you guys are still here with me because nobody's been chatting in the last 20 minutes or so. But very exciting. Let's go tell the team. All right. So let's do a quick recap. Seems like you guys are sort of tuned out at this point, which is unfortunate because that was extremely exciting. So go ahead and close that window, and let's go ahead and just check out the deck. Talk it over for a minute. I feel like it was great, honestly. We did sideboard out the Tidebinders a few times, but they were excellent in some situations. They did great work against Prowess, and I believe there was another like red. There was a red-green deck. It did work, I think, by tapping down Goblin Rabblemaster. Then they tried to abrade the Tidebinder, and we just countered their abrade, and Tidebinder just like sort of cleared the way for us to just attack and win the game. So yeah, main deck Tidebinders seem well positioned. It would seem like a good call. Master of Waves also won us some games. Dismember, a great card to have. I think Force did a great job. Love having Spreading Seas. People have been trimming on the Spreading Seas in favor of more aggressive builds with like Simic and Bant recently. Loving the Cavern of Souls. We did see a fair number of counter spells this evening. I believe like 2 of our matchups were controlling, if not 3. I'll have to sort of go back and actually remember what all 5 rounds were playing. Chalice seemed excellent. Damping Matrix seemed excellent. Relic was decent in game 3 against that Through the Breach deck. Not necessary because we just stomped them in the game where we played Relic, but relevant. And so we did bring in all of our sideboard tech, and I believe we actually cast all of our sideboard tech. So the deck just feels tight now. I'll post the list in the Discord for anybody who wants to check it out and give it a try. A little bit sad that we couldn't get the 5-0 this evening, but honestly, I'm really stoked about the 4-1. Between Soul Herder and just being a little bit sort of directionless with Merfolk lately, pre-ban. I haven't actually been playing that many leagues, so to just jump into one of these rare leagues and actually just kind of crush it feels excellent. So thanks very much for joining me, guys. If any of you are not following the channel yet, I'd appreciate it if you could do that. It'll alert you whenever I start a stream. If you'd like to subscribe and throw a little money my way, that would be great. Very much appreciated. Let's see. I want to thank It's Westlund for the follow. Kayoma, thanks for following this evening. Eric Des MTZ and Walked Airplane. Those are my most recent followers, and I really appreciate the support, guys. The next time I'll be streaming might be this weekend, but if you guys don't see me, then I will definitely be here Monday evening with some Soul Herder. That's been a lot of fun lately as well. That deck is super experimental all the time, but I'm trying Hostage Taker most recently, and the card just seems really powerful. I think most people don't know that you can actually exile your own stuff with Hostage Taker, which is very funny and extremely fun, actually. So exile another target creature or artifact. It doesn't have to be like the opponent's like Deputy of Detention. You can only target the opponent's stuff. So you can actually play Hostage Taker, take your own Icefang Coatl hostage, right? And then just immediately pay 2 mana and play it again for value. Then, of course, you can blink Hostage Taker later, either with Soul Herder or with Ephemerate, and re-trigger it to take the opponent's stuff or just for value to recast something. So pretty spicy. Soul Herder is super spicy. So if any of you guys are interested in checking out Soul Herder in action, well, first of all, you can check out my YouTube channel, just youtube.com/merfolkjoe. The link is down at the bottom. I've got tons and tons of gameplay of Soul Herder, but if you want to join me for some fun live gameplay, I will be playing next on Monday evening. Again, if I'm not here on the weekend. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again for joining me.